we are at the forefront in terms of environmental regulation and changing our farming system.
Yep.
We're like probably the leading nation in the world on that.
Yep.
And we are, in terms of outcomes, we're one of the worst. Only Malta has more obesity than we do in Europe.
That's so
We're a
crazy.
close second. We're a close second to America and Canada.
But why is that? Because I don't understand that. Because other European countries, they booze a lot. Well, they don't binge, but they booze and they smoke. Like, why do you think we're like, how have we got to this situation where we're the worst in Europe?
I think there are two very plausible root causes. The first is that we became separated from the land way earlier than our European counterparts. So because of the Industrial Revolution, we enclosed large parts of our countryside to grow sheep, to produce wool, and we moved huge numbers of workers from the countryside into the town. So by the
why were we before them? Sorry to interrupt. So why our industrial revolution kicked off before the others? Why? But I don't understand why that was.
Oh, well, it depends if you believe the British narrative. We had a lot of coal, and we had some clever engineers.
Right. Okay.
Or the British narrative is we're just great.
But I'll take both of those.
I think you can argue that cheap coal plus engineers probably is as good a good education and good engineers. But so we went from the early 19th century, where we produced almost all our own food, to producing only 30% of it for the Second World War. So we basically outsourced food production. So we would create textiles and sell those to the world, and we would use the money from that to buy our food from the rest of the world. France didn't reach the same level of urbanization that we had in 1860, there or thereabouts, until 1960. So they kept their food culture. I've just done this report called Nourishing Britain, which was published last week, where we interviewed loads of prime ministers and health secretaries and people about why we're so bad at the politics of food in this country. And Nick Clegg, as part of that, said, my wife comes from a rural Spanish village where the GDP per capita is much lower than a lot of the UK, and they eat really well. So this link between poverty and bad diet is quite a uniquely British thing. And I think that is partly because we just lost the culture. We lost the culture of living on the land and of our own indigenous diet. So that's one part of it.
Another thing I've found fascinating again is just like our class system is just quite a uniquely British thing. And like, how does that, again, being a fish and water, right? Literally until I interviewed Seth Godin, he was like, you don't realize how, sort of, and listening to podcasts between Brits and Americans, is like, we'll always say, oh, you're posh, or like, there really is a clear class system. And when me being a fish and water, you don't realize you're in it. Like, how has our unique class system impacted our food system?
Well, we go back to 1846. I'm just sorry, I'm going to have to think this through, because I've never thought of it with the class lens on. But I guess one of the first events would be 1846, which was the repeal of the Corn Laws.
Repeal of the
Corn Laws.
Corn Laws,
so
right.
Up until 1846, we were very protectionist. And so we basically kept the price of corn at a high level, so that the lords, largely the upper class who owned all our land, could benefit from the price of expensive corn. And then there were riots, and in 1846, the Corn Laws were repealed, the government fell, and that was when we started importing lots from abroad. And then at the same time, you were getting this mass migration into cities. So, how has that impacted our food system? I don't know, because you'd say, in a class sense, you would say that I don't really know how class works now. The people who own the factories, they're middle class, aren't they? They're the aspiring bourgeoisie. I don't know. It's a good question. I'll have to
Well,
go
no,
back.
see,
And
no,
think,
it's
through a class lens.
yeah, but
I've always looked at it through a poverty lens, but not through a class lens.
Yeah,
But
it's
there must be elements of it that are class related, but not poverty related.
yeah, because I didn't realize how. I think it was Jimmy Carr said on a podcast about how he spent a lot of time in America and the UK. It's like when he went to America, he was like, "There's it's a racist divide, whereas in a racial divide, whereas in the UK, it's way more of a class divide." And it's just something I was like, but again, being a fish in the water, you don't realize it until you're out of the water, kind of thing. Espressos is sponsored by supply chain software gurus Unleashed. It talks to your e-com and accounting software. It's helped islands cut admin time in half, get granular clarity on your margins, know where your stock is, don't miss availability. Brands like Candy Kittens, Tiny Rebel, and Trip all use Unleashed, and so should you.